name is Charlie Hendricks.
He hates her. He wants her off the island.
One of those people down there is the killer.
Hello, and welcome to Series 4 of Jam Presents, a podcast series by me, Mike Groves, and a good mate of mine, Jason Cripps. We're here to investigate the murder of Charlie Hendricks alongside Channel 4's new murder mystery reality TV show, Murder Island. Plenty to talk about. Episode 3. You're listening to Jam Presents, which at one point last week was the 7th most listened to after show podcast on Apple Podcasts.
7th?
We got up to 7th, which, all right, it's the equivalent of being the 7th best footballer in the reserve team of your school when you're 10 years old. Nevertheless, it's the most proud I've been in a long, long time. And to be fair, we couldn't have done it without everyone listening right now. So genuinely, thanks. Wanted to get that out the way because that's the soppy shit, and now we can start criticising people's tweets as they come in for the next hour and a bit. But no, it's been a remarkable week again, and we keep saying it, and we are very humbled by it. We're going to read tweets later on as we get to that bit of the podcast later. I mistakenly or naively said, if people tweet us, we'll read them out. And my phone battery's nearly dead because I can't watch an episode. My eyes are on the phone so much, it's ridiculous, the amount of tweets. So we will try and read some out later on. But in my mind, I will get through them all. It'll be fine. We would be here until 3 o'clock in the morning. It's been crazy, especially in this episode. And we'll get to what the episode entailed, how it went and everything.
I mean, do you think we had 10, 11?
At least 3 or 4. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we had a shitload.
You were trying to live tweet it at the same time, though.
Yeah, I think.
Which must be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, because I'm trying to make notes at the same time as take a photo of the screen, at the same time as keep an eye out for Chris the Peacock.
It's like you need another person on the podcast to do some of it, but
that would be helpful if someone else was taking the same amount of notes. Or I wonder, I wonder if there's anyone that could possibly help me.
Take the burden.
And rather than contribute, you're thinking, let's just hire a third person.
I was thinking, you can we outsource this? Get back on Fiverr.
Right,
which everything's not a Fiverr. They've missed a trick there, aren't they?
When it started, was everything $5, £5? Was that the idea?
Well, and then people just increase their prices and taking the piss now.
When Poundland started selling stuff for £8, you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Can't think of any examples, but they definitely don't just sell everything for £1.
Anyway, carry on. We digress.
We do quite frequently. We're halfway through right now. We are at the halfway point of the series, and as per usual, to save future Mike some time, that's me now, current Mike. After the episode, I'm writing this preamble before the show airs. So by the time we have this conversation, which is what we are having right now, we will know which of the pairs has been eliminated and are no longer with a chance of winning the £50,000. So unlucky, insert names here. No, I biffed that, didn't I? Unlucky Dot and Rocks, commiserations, because they did provide a lot of entertainment. And whilst there's a lot of criticism online on Twitter and whatnot, I think they did provide entertainment value. I think they actually did look quite good at certain points, especially in this episode. Yeah. And it won't be the same show without them, that's for sure. We'll talk a bit more about their journey and departure later as we talk about the episode. Before we get into the one we've just watched, there are once again a few things that we need to go back over. First of all, murder weapon. In the last episode, we weren't sure if it had been mentioned in any of the other episodes. And thankfully on that front, we weren't being stupid. A few people confirmed that on Twitter. Well, not that we weren't stupid, just that the murder weapon was still undisclosed. I think a lot of people do think we're stupid. So that's really interesting. We are halfway through now, and we still don't know, well, we're not even asking any questions about the murder weapon. The fingerprints are another thing that people keep coming back to. I think they've only had up to last episode, and now obviously, day 3. Previously, they'd only had 48 hours on the island, and now, maybe they've had up to 72. So I guess they're still waiting for them to be processed, but that will potentially unlock quite a lot about this case.
Well, the fingerprints to be processed.
Yeah, and DNA and things like that.
Yeah, there's only like 600 Copernicans, isn't there?
You could probably do it yourself. Yeah, but to be fair, they're probably waiting for
My first detective kit. Like the Filofax. Remember that? You remember
the Filofax? I do. Yeah, with the ring binder. Yeah. Maybe the fingerprints are just in the post. Like Jean has to wait for them to come back from. That's what she had in the post bag. She's obviously, taken a few out on the sly, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Before they're sent over, so they don't marry hers up. We ought to also discuss how incredible other people's attention to detail has been, and how much we've had to reconsider since getting on the hashtag.
Sometimes I don't even think I'm watching the same show as other people, or my eyes just get diverted to the stupidest things, and everyone else is seeing what they should be seeing.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think that there are some people there that are looking for evidence, and noticing the corkscrew of the wine glass, for example, or the wine bottle that wasn't corked or had a cork, and then there's you that's looking at pocket squares and stripy ties, which probably won't solve the case, but Fashion Tips by Jason has got a bit of a ring to it, hasn't it? One person that we absolutely need to mention is Holly Henderson. She told us something that I'm surprised that you hadn't come up with.
What, do you want to replace me already? She gets one good tweet in and you're trying to replace me already?
Right. Bear with me. There's not a bear with me. I knew that would be your next port of call if I say that. No, bear with me because there's a bit to go into. Chrissy in the last episode was the one who dropped the pregnancy bombshell on Tony and Sonia. They had the chat around Tony knowing that Charlie was pregnant. And Holly asked us, naturally, what is the next question you ask in that situation? So now I'm asking you, what naturally would that...
You would ask Tony if he's the dad.
Yeah, or who is the father? Did she tell you who the father was, or did she tell you?
Yeah.
Right. Surely that is the next question. But
didn't Simon say that? Didn't Simon said there should have been a follow-up question to that?
Don't ask questions that I don't know the answer to. This isn't fair. I surprise you with questions.
Ask Holly then. Tweet Holly, see if she knows.
Oh, but for suspense and storyline, the producers don't want us to have that information yet, do they? They've withheld that information on purpose, I think.
What, you think they asked it?
Yep. I think there's more stuff that has been... It probably happens quite a bit, because you'd be asking so many questions as an investigator. But for the story to flow, and for the producer, director, whoever, you'd hold information back that you don't want to inform the audience about too soon. Especially with it being an Ian Rankin novel, that's something that he might withhold till towards the end.
Yeah, but surely you just tell Tony to be like, don't say if you don't know.
Say that again?
Well, obviously they asked Tony, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like, if they did ask Tony, or do you know who the father is? They can easily say, no, I don't know.
True. The actor may have just been briefed. That's a very good point. The actor may have just been briefed to say...
Surely, we've known this before, like, the actors probably get so much information at certain points.
Yep. And well, another question on this is that we know that Palm, Simon and Macca don't know who the killer is. Are they told
Well, we'll get to that later, because...
Okay. It's just, my question was, are they told which lines of inquiry to go down by the producers? And the reason I ask is, would anyone stop us if we started pursuing the peacock? I mean, we'd be booted fairly quickly, but...
We're the people's champions, though, wouldn't we?
I think so. Probably wouldn't even make it through the first episode.
But on Peacock Watch, there was no Peacock this episode.
No, and it's pretty devastating, to be honest, because if we don't see... Well, for two things on the Peacock. One, I think I heard him.
He choked.
So obviously listeners of this don't actually get to see what I can see on the screen, but Jason was taking a swig of his drink just then, and I thought you were going to die. Did it come out your nose? Can you breathe?
Just about.
So I did. I'm sure I heard him. And if you want, I mean, do you want a peacock noise? Like, I'm pretty good at it.
Go on then.
No, I've prepared this.
Yeah, go for it.
That's what Chris sounds like. Now, I think we may have spoke too soon when I named him Chris. I was trying to think witty and quick and think peacock, Chris Peacock, Crispy Cock, right? Would his name not be better suited? Or would his name not be better if it was Drew? so anyway.
Did you honestly hear him?
Hear the peacock? Yeah. I'm going to cut that audio from the episode.
Timestamp that.
I will 100%. Like there is, I will tweet that exact clip. You can hear that sound. You can tell I've had a few sherries. Right. Whilst we're on the point of Chris or Drew Peacock, I think it's clear that we may have a slightly different outlook on the show to a lot of people, and we've mentioned that already. But those who watch and tweet about it have, different ideas as to who the killer might be and as to what happened. Some people have absolutely mind-blowing accounts as to what's gone on. To be honest, if someone was to ask us what we did on this podcast, I would say we're trying to solve the murder and follow along and try and work out what's happened, when in reality, we forget to ask about the murder weapon and wonder if there's a person inside a peacock outfit causing carnage, which does make me appreciate that whilst we made out that we'd be great contestants in our application video, I honestly think we'd have been booted out early, and we probably need to thank those who didn't pick us to be on this show, because it would have been rather humiliating, wouldn't it? We'll get to her later in the show, but especially when confronted by Claire Mitchell QC.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was intimidated watching it.
Yeah, I think we'd have collapsed and they'd have said, right, we're not even going to go to a vote. You're just gone, guys. See you later. I did actually get onto a Murder Island Facebook group last week. So in other news, there's a Murder Island Facebook group that's been set up.
Did you set that up? Who set that up?
Not me. Not me.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
So I hijacked it and put a post on there to say, look, we've got this podcast, come and check us out. And the person who's like the admin on the group, the person that set it up, was initially the most excited person on there and commented like saying, yeah, I'm going to listen. This is great. Thank you. A few hours later, right, she commented saying, this is only the second podcast I've ever listened to, and I couldn't listen to it for more than 15 minutes. Sorry, I thought it'd be more about the clues. Sorry, Alison. It wasn't quite what she was expecting. To be fair, though, we do discuss clues, perhaps not necessarily as they are presented in the show, but within each hour of this podcast, I think we make good progress.
Sorry, was that a real cough then?
No.
Okay.
One more thing before I forget. I've written it down. Need to talk about it. Kerry, the name of the caller on Charlie's phone in episode 1. Mm-hmm. And we overlooked it because you said, who writes the name in the phone in all caps? So we went on a bit of a moan about, yeah, you would never write someone's name.
I didn't even consider who Kerry was.
Yeah, who is Kerry? And I fell into the trap of assuming that Kerry can't even get their name right now. Jeez. I fell into the trap that Kerry was going to be a woman, but actually could very easily be a man. So we want to know, who is Kerry?
Oh, okay.
And I don't know the answer. I was just sort of, yeah.
I thought you were actually going somewhere.
I'd sort of throw it up, and you're the one that has to sort of bat it away and say, oh, we'll find this out later on.
You've got very high expectations of me.
Right. All that out the way, on to this week's episode. If episode 1 was crime scene, episode 2 was interrogation, episode 3 is all about presenting the evidence. do you want to give me your 1 or 2 word review on this week's episode?
I hate this. I hate when you ask me to do it for 2 words.
And yet I've asked you 3 times now, and
I know it's coming.
still-
Do you know? To be fair, I hope you, because this intro has gone on so long. I was hoping you had forgotten.
I'll write it up, mate. It's a template that I pull up now.
I'm just going to say dot on rocks then.
Yeah, good 2 words. Fair enough.
Do you mean?
Mine, no comment.
Oh, God, that was there for the taking, and I messed it up.
Yeah, yeah. You had it. I told you, I throw it up, you bat it, and you just missed. So look, the rest will all be in our notes. So over to you, future Mike. So that was a note from myself earlier in the day when I wrote this up. The first thing I've got is Peacock Watch. We've already mentioned him, so we can pass on that. So this episode was called Judgment Day. It's day 3 of the investigation, and whilst it's largely about presenting evidence, it actually opens up with the boat that's been washed up, so the dinghy or the boat that's inflatable but no longer inflated. We're told by the either Simon or Macca that there are 3 themes now running through this: pregnancy, property, and drugs. And this is now an importation route for Class A drugs. I don't know the history of these islands, but exactly, where's that going to?
Like, I haven't seen like you said, I haven't seen the geography of this, but where is this going to?
I suppose.
Are they saying it's going through the island? Like, the other side of the island?
Yeah, it's almost like an importation route, so they can't be importing it for the 6 people that live on the island. Presumably it gets there without too much of a trace because they haven't got sniffer dogs on the island. And maybe it's one of those that if they go through Scotland or through London or through Bournemouth or wherever, a port somewhere in the UK, it's going to be checked. But if it goes through the island first, then it's easier to get off in Charlie's VW camper, perhaps.
We touched on it last week, but who's even driving this boat? Riding this boat? No, rowing this boat.
Oh yeah, how did the boat ever get to the island in the first place?
Yeah, I don't get it. Are they just chucking like loads of boats off, filled with loads of drugs, and just hope that one hits the island?
Yeah,
like
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
like those ET. No, is it? It's not. Oh, what is it? They've got alarm clocks or something that are. Oh, there's an incredible story online, and they keep finding them washed up. There's a boat that.
Oh, it's
a shipping container.
Is it Felix the cat?
No. It could be a phone or a.
No, it's Garfield. Garfield phones.
Garfield phones. You're right. That's it. It was in there somewhere. So yeah, I mean,
from the 90s or something. Isn't it?
Yeah. Look, for those listening who don't know, because this is one of those silly things that we've learnt over the years, and it's just stayed in the back of our heads. Presumably a container ship or a container fell off a ship, or a container ship came to ground or something like that, and one was filled with novelty telephones in the shape of Garfield the cat, and they are appearing on beaches in France or Spain or wherever, somewhere in the world, and you can go down there and often see them in the rocks.
In their natural habitat.
Catfish.
Right, moving on anyway.
Next thing I noticed, they're all on the beach, they're looking. A few tweets came in about them mishandling the boat. They're using it without gloves on and things like that, or they're moving it without gloves on. I was actually more concerned about what they were all wearing. This is now day 3, and they're in the same clothes that they wore in day 2 and on day 1. Now,
how have you noticed that?
Pocket square and tie, exactly the same. And then I went back and looked at all the others.
That's a clue.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I get it's for continuity. It's where that they want to get reactions. You don't always, you need more footage. Or what we see on TV isn't necessarily the order it happened, is it? But it just makes me think it's, just a bit gross, really. How far do they take that? Do they just carry on wearing the same clothes?
Potentially.
Or is it just jackets, just keep the same jacket on and tie and pocket square. The shirts are different.
So one thing I didn't get, is we know that Freddie told Logan to phone it into
to
the
call it in.
Coast Guard, right? But then you see how close that is to Freddie's house. And
Yeah.
then everyone thinks straight away, oh, well, Freddie's up there. It's like, mate, if you don't call it in, just bin it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't really understand why that was called in. Is it perhaps because there could be a body associated? There could be someone missing now?
Yeah, we're 3 episodes in there, mate.
Or was this the only way that they could get it into the story, that the investigators found out about it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because without phoning it in, they would never know about it.
Yeah. Which brings me on to something later on.
Probably should have been a dog walker.
Yeah. But then Logan is tied into the story then.
That's true.
Of knowing about all the drugs and stuff.
They're both into it together. There was traces of cocaine on the boat. So I thought that's pretty good. They were able to analyse that pretty quickly. Still not got fingerprints and DNA, but we know there's coke on the boat.
Did you see, like, a bit random, what's the 2 things you didn't ask the woman?
Ask a woman.
Yeah.
How much do you weigh?
And
are you pregnant?
Oh, I was going to say you're in your age. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough.
Caroline sells Chrissy down the river straight away. She's like, on national TV, she's like, you're 74 and I'm 60. It's like, all right. And like, Chrissy's face is like, she looks at her like,
thanks very much.
You just fucking say that. Cut that, edit that out.
They did. They dubbed it. She's actually 84. They re-record.
I'm really sorry for her. She's had a bad episode too. And she's like, I really want to support my mate. Support her. She just sold you out.
I did notice that. And actually I noted that I'd watch a drama of those two as, fighting crime any day of the week.
Fighting crime?
I mean, yeah, maybe not fighting.
On the week the new Batman trailer drops.
Chrissy and Caroline feature in a cop pair. Yeah, I think they'd rock it. So the next port of call is presenting theories to the prosecutor.
Okay, can I say something before you get into this? Before you get into your paragraphs of notes?
Yes.
I've got on my notes, my bullet points.
Well, of which you've got about 3.
I've got more than 3.
4.
Yeah, there's more than 3. I've already said I don't think any of them have enough evidence, or there isn't enough evidence to give. They were going to fail that regard. Every one of them was going to fail that regardless.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
They were set up to fail. Every single one of them set up to fail. They were just like, they were better off going in there saying there is no evidence. There's literally no evidence. We haven't got a fucking murder weapon.
This is really that's a really important point, because Dot and Rux, I thought, were the strongest there, because they said, we don't know at the moment.
Yeah, I thought that's what I fair play.
Yeah, and everyone else was getting criticised for making up this narrative or coming to these conclusions or jumping on the fact that Freddie's got a previous conviction and things like that. Whereas although they used that, they did say, but we are still pursuing multiple lines of inquiry. And I thought, you know what?
I think Dot and Rocks, because they were, I'm not saying scatty, but that's the word I'm going to use, because they were all over the place, because they were getting asked to use evidence that they didn't have. None of them had.
Yeah.
So they were just all over the place. But it's like, no, you're right. There isn't no evidence.
So they were more almost open-minded.
Yeah.
Compared to the others who were more honed in on a particular narrative. Yeah.
I mean, and it's funny because after that, obviously they get judged. All of them get judged on how well they've done. But considering the police are meant to be solving it alongside them, not one of them said, you missed this diary, or or you could have said about this. It's like, you're not saying about it, like, because there isn't any evidence. Like, tweet in, tell me some evidence. I want the listeners to tell me some evidence that they could have presented.
In addition to what we've got so far.
Later on, and looking at next week's episode, it sounds like every single person is going to get brought into the station.
Yeah, they're all going to be interviewed.
Because they're going to get caught red-handed with something.
Yeah, someone's fingerprints are going to be on something. Someone's DNA is going to be there.
You're going to find a knife somewhere,
or whatever,
and then it's to prove if it's for the case or just a random
or
coincidence.
ruled someone out, that sort of thing.
Anyway,
yeah, I agree.
Carry on. So I was quite angry at that.
Yeah, no, and to be fair, that is a bit later in the episode. When I said presenting theories to the prosecutor, that's what they're told at that point. But then they're told before we meet Claire Mitchell and whatnot, it's history. We find out the criminal records only of, at the moment, Tony and Freddie. Tony's got a history of being aggressive, class B and C drugs, whereas Freddie is very much attempted murder twice, maybe, or
third time's a charm.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. He's not going to get away with it this time. So Dot and Rox go and see Freddie, and Chrissy and Caroline go and see Logan. Dot and Rox with Freddie. First thing he says when he opens the door?
Come upstairs.
Yeah, follow me upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the same line Alicia uses when
It's because he's gagging to play Paul. That bloke loves Paul.
Well, how long did they take? You know, they say in the middle of that, "Oh, can we just take a break?" Because they don't want to raise his criminal record initially. And then when we see him next, he's on
Paul.
Yeah, he's on like the brown or something. So he's cleared all the reds. He's been playing for quite a while.
He's very experienced. And I don't know if you noticed, but you know the mug shots they put on the whiteboards. He's holding the Paul cue.
I thought you were going to say he was in a waistcoat with an embassy logo, and he's in the Crucible. At the same time that's going on, or the perception is that at the same time, Chrissy and Caroline are interviewing Logan. What I didn't really, or I can't quite get with Logan, or what disappoints me about Logan maybe, is that the actor isn't taking the role quite as seriously as, say, Pat Battistini did for Thibodeau, because his overalls are too clean. Pat was a fisherman in Murder in Small Town X, and he wore the same outfit and handled the fish and just got grubby for 2 weeks. Whereas Logan, it looks like he's putting on fresh ones every day. Come on, man, get into that character a bit more.
With his empty lobster cages.
Yeah. That's where he keeps the jugs normally. It's not lobsters.
If that comes back now, he's fishing them out.
Oh, he's a fisherman for cocaine bricks. Did you notice that when Logan was sort of telling his story, he was very much... he was a little bit all over the place, quite reserved. I don't think Chrissy and Caroline got anything from that other than Logan confirming his whereabouts the night before, saying that he was at home, and then his mum, who is Ishbel, had gone out to check on Hamish or something along those lines. But he was on his laptop, and I know it was on the screen. He was actually listening to Series 1 of Jam Presents Murder in Small Town X. So if anybody wants to go and listen to that, it's on Spotify, Apple, Google, Podbean, everything else.
In all good podcast shops.
That's the end of part 1 not of the podcast, that'd be weird. The show, it was frantic. There was so much to take in. There was so much going on. But all right, I said no comment about my 2 words earlier and things like that, but the episode itself was actually amazing. Like, it had gone up a notch, I felt, and it bombarded us with information. That is a 2 or 3 watch episode to get all the detail you need, so we can never do this justice. Not that we ever do this show justice anyway, we chat shit, but for anyone to take in all of that information, you need to pause it or watch it slowly or a bit at a time, because even after part 1, my mind was all over the place. It is in part 2 that we meet Claire Mitchell QC, who has got in on the tweets, mate. Amazing. So
has she?
She has. I didn't text it to you because I wanted to sort of tell you now, and also it's been mad with the amount of things that have come in. But I find her incredible. I think Palm is fantastic. I think the 2 cops in this show, the 2 detectives in this show, are brilliant. But when Claire Mitchell comes in, she's like Miranda from Devil Wears Prada, and that's what I tweeted. I put something along the lines of, Miranda QC or whatever, and a GIF, and she's shucks or something like, I don't know the exact. I took a screenshot of it, but it was one of those, and she's in. I'm thinking, this is amazing, and that's like live. We're just watching the show, and she's watching it with us. I'm like, that's really cool.
That is good. That's cool.
So I was nerding out a little bit. We've mentioned it already. Intimidation factor. I would be bricking it. like full on bricking it, trying to present evidence to her. Before they get to, we see a few different scenes. Now, Nick or Andrew say they want to make their dad proud, and it's not until later in the episode that I see one of them is wearing a Wimbledon tie, and that's when I can now differentiate the difference between Nick and Andrew. I don't have it written down here. We'll talk about it shortly, and I'll be able to tell you. I think it's Andrew that wears the Wimbledon tie, and Nick that doesn't. But the question around that Wimbledon tie is, why tennis when their sport of choice is rounders?
They're multi-sport.
Oh, true. They did mention other things afterwards.
How do you get a Wimbledon tie and just buy one?
So it looks like it's one of those that, you know, like the jacket that you get when you win the Masters and things like that. It's maybe it was a ball boy. But then surely that would be like your... Yeah, they both follow us on Instagram. We can find out.
I'd be wearing it all the time. All the time.
I think if we can just buy them for episode 6, that's what we're wearing. If they're still in it. If they're out, I don't care. On Richmond's board, no, we don't know. I think it was Richmond writing it, but Hamish, spelt Hay, Hey, Mish. So to get away from saying Hamish, they've actually now spelt it phonetically. So it now says Hamish, which superb. The next scene is Claire Mitchell QC. You have to say her full name. I don't know what it is with titles and things like that, but you know, like Sir Tom Jones and things like that. I think you're meant to add it on. Okay.
Well, it's disrespectful if you don't, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, Claire Mitchell, which one? QC. Oh, I know which one you mean. See?
Just in case there's two.
Yeah. So Andrew and Nick initially are presenting their evidence, and I think they're killing it. I'm like, this is fantastic. They've got all their ducks in a row. Is that a phrase? They've got all their eggs in a basket. No, that's wrong. If you've got all your eggs in one basket, they've got all your insert sort of old-fashioned English phrase in here to make it sound like you've got everything in a logical sequence. And then Claire is very much like, Claire Mitchell QC is very much like, slow it down. You're going through far too many things. You jump into conclusions. You can't use this as evidence. And they just get shat on, basically, but
go easy on it
in such an amazing way. Dot and Rocks are next, and they're only just realizing that Jean is in the photographs on Charlie's fridge.
Yeah, and that's episode 1 stuff.
I do feel like that's probably what we'd be like.
Yeah.
And I've put Dot and Rocks not jumping the gun, but again, when they get in front of Claire Mitchell QC, it's a different story. That is, she's not necessarily impressed with the way they're coming across. And their comment, as soon as she leaves the room, fucked it, mate. Brilliant little sound like that.
A lot of things I do, mate.
Yeah, life in general, fucked it, mate.
Yeah.
So Rich and Sarah are next. They've created a narrative. It's all we've done, to be fair, on this podcast. All we have done is gone, we assume it's this because of this. We assume it's the peacock because it keeps appearing on the screen. We assume it's Sonia because she looks shifty, and maybe Tony did it. We've got no evidence. We've got less evidence.
There is no evidence. I've gone through this.
Yeah, but we can't force a narrative. So maybe we just give up on the podcast now and say, well, until we get evidence, call it a day.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's fine.
Yep. See you next week, guys. Caroline and Chrissy, I genuinely couldn't keep up. Like, they were all over the place. I did feel for them a bit because they felt really bad afterwards. And I think that they were trying to say, this, and this. And Palm was like, well, are you linking that to that? Oh, no. Do you have any evidence of that? Oh, no. Can you prove this? Oh, no. And again, after Claire Mitchell QC had left the room, they obviously breathed a sigh of relief, but then just looked at each other, and I felt so sorry for them.
I'm sure it's when Claire Mitchell QC is listening to Caroline and Chrissy that she looks at her watch. Seen that?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to clip that.
Yeah, because there was so much that they were. I honestly couldn't write down what they were trying to convey.
Even she's bored. Even she's like, move it along. It's like lunchtime.
And then they were like, okay, that's fine. And then I think Chrissy at the end said, oh no, there's another thing I want to tell you. And then she said that, and you think, oh, maybe that's going to change something. And again, Palm shoots her down. It's like, oh shit, should have just kept my mouth shut.
But that thing was what they got out of Logan, wasn't it? About his mum going to see
Hamish.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting on to that, actually, we'll finish this bit, because you see at the end, Richmond's still massively positive.
About Hamish?
No, just about like that, how he did. He's like, well, we tried our best.
Yeah.
Like,
I see what you mean. No. Yeah, I thought you meant the track that he's going down. No,
no. They all got
all of them felt like they'd had a hard time, but those guys after, incredible. However, his attitude did change later on, where he's like, no more fucking about. Because they all went into the room, and this is the next scene. So the detectives, Palm, Simon Macker, and then Claire Mitchell QC, all got into the room to discuss. And then it was very much the Apprentice, you're fired moment, where they went through. And to be honest, I didn't really write down what they said about each of the couples, but it was like, right, I'm finding a fault with you here, you there, and then finally, Dot and Rox, you're fired. Go and gather your things. You're off the case. And it was after that moment that that Richmond said, "Let's up our game. No more fucking about." Even though they've been pretty bloody good so far.
Yeah.
I think it was just.
Well, this is what you. I suppose this is what you get when you don't have the teams mixing.
Yeah,
they
no sharing of evidence.
No, but they can't base themselves on their peers either. Then can they? They don't know if they're weakest. They don't know if they're the strongest. They don't know who's not pulling their weight.
No.
So they can't gauge themselves.
Yeah, and they're only seeing it for the first time when it's on TV now. It's not like they're watching the day's footage back and going, "Oh yeah, smash this" or anything like that.
When Palm said about Bottom Rocks, who was it that was like, shit?
And that came up, I'm sure that came up subtitled. So Channel 4 at the moment ago, they had a fire back at the end of September in their broadcasting house in London. So they've lost subtitles, they've lost audio description, all sorts of things from all their programs. This is genuine. And so there's a lot of complaints online. A lot of people aren't watching Murder Island because of that. So we may get a few more.
Can they just type it again? How long does it take to type a
I genuinely didn't. Yeah, exactly. I took it for granted. And now you look and they're saying it's so difficult. They've got to rebuild a new system. It's crazy. It's been off since like the 25th of September. Tonight they got Bake Off back online with subtitles, and that's it. The audio descript and everything is gone. Like it's just wiped out. It's almost like they take all the stuff that's in the archive and process it ready for being broadcast. But because all of that stuff went down, it's now like shit. We've got a backlog, and they're trying to fight. I was going to say fight fire, but that's not really appropriate considering what happened.
It's a bit harsh.
Their broadcasting centre.
They thought they'd subtitle that,
but they did subtitle that.
The only bit of the show. Well, actually,
there was something else as well, wasn't there? There was something else. I'll find it. It probably doesn't make a difference. So Nick and Andrew, the next scene we've got. That's it for we've lost Dot and Rocks. Yeah, it's
funny that they say, "Oh, go back and get your stuff." What stuff? I'm not going to take all these photos.
Well, yeah, then they start taking all the photos down. I'm thinking, oh, well, I'd not leave that for someone else. You've sacked me. Oh.
Yeah. I'm not going to take all this evidence. Well, the lack of evidence.
And you're certainly not going to take the pictures that came from Charlie's fridge because you don't even know the people in them.
Yeah. I do like that, and I know it's all like cinematography or whatever you want to call it. But this cameraman's obviously been like, "Well, turn the light off and leave me in here," as they walk out.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just
there's a lot of production things. Both Alicia and Freddie have both said, "Oh, why don't you come upstairs? Because that's conveniently where the cameras are." Like, obviously,
and the pool table.
I've got to correct you because it's bothering me a little bit. It's a snooker table.
Is it?
Yeah, it's massive.
It's fucking same thing, isn't it? Surely.
Oh, I hope Ronnie O'Sullivan's not listening. Oh God, famously listening to
who?
That famous pool player.
God.
Right. Nick and Andrew next. They go to see Tony Slade. Now, do they always sit in the order of Andrew and Nick, or Nick and Andrew,
Are they like
or
hand
do
and
they
deck?
mix it about? Exactly. Are they Ant and Dec? I don't know. I think Nick is the dark-haired one.
Is that why I'm always stood on the right of you?
Yeah, in all of the things that I try and put online, I always put you first because of the jam. Which is, yeah, there might be people thinking, why the hell are you called Jam? I don't know if we've ever covered that in anything we've ever done, but it's because we really like strawberry jam. No, no, well, Jason and Mike, right? But where I put us on things, and I think probably you put in more of the work in terms of the notes, the editing, the tweeting, and everything. So your name needs to come first because of the amount of hard
Obviously.
graft you put
Obviously, yeah. I'm a silent partner
in.
that comes first on everything.
You finance it, even though I pay for the Zoom
Everything.
bill and everything else. Oh dear. So anyway, Nick and Andrew and Nick. Andrew being the one that wears
It'll
the
be
Wimbledon
Ham soon.
tie.
You'll get Holly on.
Yeah, Ham presents. Hamish presents.
Yeah, carry on.
Right. They know more than, say, the others who have interviewed Tony already because they've had their interview or their chat with Freddie. So they know more about Tony's backstory, about where he worked and things like that. He says that Charlie was looking for a fresh start. He said that they were looking for a fresh start when they went over as well. And fair play. They're like, oh, can we look at some of your texts? He's like, yeah, that's fine. And
I wouldn't let anyone even look at my phone. Leonocopoulos.
Yeah, because the background that you've got is like really dodgy.
Like, oh yeah, here it is. I slipped into the sink with the water on. I bet the SIM card.
So fair play to them for jumping to that and saying, can we look at your phone? Can we have a look around the house? They've definitely upped their game. It does amaze me that Simon or Macca, I don't know which one it was, had to say, whichever chaperone they had for the day, had to tell them how to look around a room and what to look for twice. Like, once is fine. Like, maybe you just scan him around and he's like, no, do a full sweep, go up and down, have a look at everything. And even then he's like, no, you've missed a shitload here.
That's what makes me think, like, if they're trying to solve it as well, they can only go on what
those guys find. They can't be like, oh, we need to look in this drawer, make sure you open that drawer. It's if they open that drawer, then they use that evidence.
Yeah.
At this point, we get cliffhanger of the season. Not that that's like an accolade or anything like that, but cliffhanger of the series so far is very much, where's Tony gone? Has he just upped and fucked off? So they leave Tony to go and sort something, and he's gone, and then we get adverts. Amazing. And those 3 minutes were the most suspenseful so far of the series. Tony is actually in the garage, and I might be naive, but it looks like he's just hiding his wife's presents, maybe Christmas presents or something. It seems to be like wrapping paper or some brown paper and parcel tape around. Yeah. Something like that, anyway.
But you got to think, how long was he stood there pretending to hold up?
That's right. And Macca or Simon's going, oh, come on, guys, we better go look for him. And they're like, yeah, no, hang on, we found something interesting in the kitchen drawer. No, yeah, but we really get... And he's like, fucking hurry up. And he's just stood there with his arm in that exact place, just waiting for him to turn up. Tony being arrested, that was actually a great turn up for the books. I wasn't expecting anything like that in this series. I didn't think it would go down that route, but that's superb. And then, can you remember back to episode 1? And I know that's a long time ago. That's a whole 2 episodes ago. There I said, oh, we've got a tweet here from Bobby Reed, and he's tagged himself. Yeah?
He was a defense lawyer.
He's the defense lawyer. So
what did he say at the time? No comment. We're like, what's that mean?
Yeah, He's actually liked another one of our tweets. So, oh my gosh. So then there are far too many. I've just opened my phone.
Has he provided services for us when people come after us?
I genuinely, like, if I ever get in trouble with the law, I want Bobby Reed as my lawyer. Let it be known now. That doesn't mean he can charge me the earth because I've requested him by name. And I hopefully won't get into trouble for anything. Maybe, the amount of clips that I've used from Channel 4 in my tweets lately, they might come to some sort of...
You're getting shut down. Royalties.
Yeah, royalty money. But
it looks quite easy, though, doesn't it?
What, just sit there and say no comment?
Yeah, just sit there, say no comment. Just say no comment. Don't have to answer it.
He was, however, really quite supportive, or he was trying to assist the investigators. You could tell that he was saying,
"It's like, not that question.
No, not that sort of question.
Maybe this question."
That's right. It was he was leading them on to say they just didn't pick up on the hints. Every question was a closed question. What I did really like in particular was where Nick was linking it to the drugs.
Oh, I was going to say, I liked it when Nick goes, "Do you think this is funny?" Yes, Nick, get him.
But Nick's also the one where he said, is it linked to the drug? They're like, oh, is this got anything to do with the Charlie case? Bobby, I think, says, I don't see how this has anything to do with the Charlie Hendricks case.
Yeah.
And he's like, bam, puts down the piece of paper with the drug, and it's like, oh, you genius, mate. You absolute genius. They then say something, and perhaps it's my lewd mind, or I feel a bit bad for even thinking it, but...
Well, be careful what you say then.
Yeah, and it's playground sort of... I don't like saying it because it's one of those, but it did make me laugh. One of them says, should we go and rattle Sonia? Like, you can't say that. I can't think it. That's really bad. It was a bad moment and I felt guilty. So forgive me because I do feel guilty for, using that sort of terminology. But when they said we ought to go and rattle Sonia, and I know what they mean in terms of shake her up a little bit and get information from her, it just came across as two lads saying that. I just thought, oh, fuck me, you can't say that.
So when they go to Sonia, to the school where Sonia is, and I don't know, I might have just made this up now because I only watched it once and I've written some notes. But I'm sure they say, right, we won't say too much.
Yeah. And we won't
like let on that
we've got arrested. Yeah.
And Nick or Andrew opens the door. Husband's been arrested. All these kids are like, what? Obviously they do outside. It's just like, that's the first thing you say to her.
Yeah. The thing that got me was that she's obviously picked up at the school and she's taken in. She was apparently given the coke by a child at school. Should have asked his name. Snorty Joe, I think, was the was. Oh, it was that one. And there's like a kid with like white powder all around his nose, like his eyes are like saucers.
We call him Chalk Eater.
So anyway, I genuinely now, right, I sat there and I watched that scene where Sonia was being interviewed by them, and I thought, this is all really nice, and she's coming across as pretty good, pretty decent, and she's saying, look, it's a big misunderstanding, understand what it looks like, but I was given to it by a child at school, this, that, and the other. And you think, yeah, it probably is, and actually this is all one big red herring, and they are probably decent people just trying to... he was hiding it because it didn't look good. And then you see 3 days ago, or however many days ago that it was, we see the footage off where they're like, we need to get our story straight. And then at the end, when Tony comes out, I think they believed us. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, because I thought that was going to be the end of that storyline.
Yeah.
But no, that's superb.
Yeah. The thing is, I still don't think they killed her. I'm moving away from her now.
I don't think Tony killed her. I still think there's a chance.
Oh yeah, it could be
Sonia.
Sonia. Could be Sonia. Yeah,
because of what had gone on between Charlie and Tony over the years. We then see coming up, and you're right, the next episode looks like we get Ishbel, we get Logan, and a few others into the and Alicia as well. We get them into the interrogation room. So that looks pretty exciting. But
I think they all go in there on evidence, though.
I hope so. Yeah, I
because
hope so.
one of the big things, well, I say one of the big things, he mentioned it once, was Simon saying, you have to, is it evidence or is it red herring? And I think this is going to be the point, is can you link this to the case, or is it just rubbish?
And perhaps they're not allowed to, they could arrest Tony because they found the coke in his possession. They could talk to Sonia because she was being cooperative. She didn't have to, but obviously her fella's been arrested. So I guess the only way that they've got Logan,
like
Ellen,
I don't know who it'll be, but they'll go and see Hamish, and they'll find someone at his and bring him in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but will they, or will they go to the QC and say we need to bring them in? This is our evidence. So they've already maybe the fingerprints, and they use that as evidence.
This is what I'm saying, because it's such a duos thing. Is that evidence going to be shared with the rest? Oh yeah, Nick and Andrew brought in Tony because they found coke and they had to arrest him on site. And this is in his interview, and this is what happened. Or are they all the other couples being like, "Oh, Tony's, we don't, fine." Like, where is that being shared to?
That's a really good point, actually, because what if the others don't know that Tony's now been? Yeah, that's a big point.
That's what I couldn't understand.
But then they're all police, so that should be in the case files. There has to be case notes because they are all acting as police officers. So
Exactly.
So that must be shared.
So you have to say, right, I want to watch Andrew and Nick mess the interview up, please.
So we've, I think, exhausted our notes. Have you got anything else in your notes that you want to?
Yeah, I've got 4.
Well, that's all your notes. So
actually, I've got 5. So yeah, I've just added one.
Blimey.
They're not really, like, they're rubbish. First off, we haven't really discussed about Logan's mum, because she's a player in this now.
Yeah, definitely.
Because why did she go and see Hamish?
She disappeared. Exactly. She went. That's a really key bit of information that only Caroline and Chrissy maybe know at the moment.
Yeah, but we haven't even considered her at any level of this.
No.
So she's going to be a big player.
So is she a sitting duck? She's quietly there. I mean, we did see a swan. Did you see the swan on the water?
Yeah.
So I think we've got the owl, we've got the peacock, we've got the swan. There was a swan on the water, and now we've got a sitting duck in Ishbel. Animal Watch.
So there's that. We've seen Hamish with no hat.
Yes. Whoa. That took me by surprise.
I was like, who is that? Oh, it's Hamish. It's Hamish without his hat.
Wasn't hiding anything either. There's no wallet or anything underneath.
But as soon as he stands up, hat's back on.
Maybe that's how he rolls.
But I mean, it's probably pretty cold on the island.
Cold head, when you stand up, you're going into a different sort of. I mean, you must find that being like 6'8".
6'6". I'm not a freak. Was it Doll Rocks forgot their handbag as well? Did you see that? And then Freddie had to give that. You didn't see that?
Oh yeah, and they went back up to the snooker room.
Yeah, and I was thinking he's handing it over. That's just gonna be full of drugs now. He's like, oh, sorry.
Especially now they're off the case. They're just drugs mules for the rest of the. Yeah.
He's like, oh, you forgot your handbag. He's like, this bit heavy, just full up of coke. And there's a bit you're gonna have to clip. I don't know what you're gonna do with it, but when Freddie's getting interviewed by Dot and Rocks, there's a bit where he literally looks like he's playing the keyboard.
What?
Did you see it?
No.
I'm hoping
like miming, like pressing keys?
He's like, but then I went and done this.
I'm putting music over it. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm going to try.
As soon as I saw it, I thought, Mike's going to have to put that on Twitter. So
I've had quite a few messages like that. You need to clip this. You need to cut that. You need to get this.
Freddie playing the keyboard?
No, that's the first I've heard that.
No,
yeah.
Yeah, that's me, man. I'm done.
So, we've exhausted our notes. And I've put here, this was past Mike writing this, but there are bound to be a few tweets we need to read out. Holy crap, this is ridiculous. But before I read out some of the tweets from this week, we need to mention Scott, one of our lifelong followers. Lifelong being like 10 months of doing this. But say that, I missed exactly what you just said.
He's an original.
An OG. Yeah, he is. He is. Now, he's double booked on Tuesday nights, so he can't watch the episode live. And when he comes to watch the episode tomorrow, his Twitter feed is absolutely rammed full.
Mate, tweet him now. Like some
Tag him.
Shit. Say, I cannot believe we saw the peacock fly through the windows. He's like, what have you done? Oh, sorry, I completely forgot.
What I would say, direct message to you, Scott. Get your priorities, right, mate. Tell whoever.
What's he doing instead?
I don't care. Whoever he's committing to on a Tuesday night, Murder Island's on. It's surely more important. Now, obviously, I am not insensitive. Mate, if there is something more important than Murder Island, forgive me, I'm just taking the piss. But look, just had to mention you because we never get to read any of your tweets out because you're always busy and then tweet us the following day with some amazing stuff. So, yeah. It's also Scott, actually, who was quoted in Edinburgh Live, the online newspaper, but not actually credited. So I was reading up on Murder Island the other night and I was convinced... I was reading people's, because it was one of these, people are torn on Murder Island. Some people think it's shit. Some people think it's great. And I was reading the words where it was like...
Great journalism there.
That's all journalism is nowadays. Just look at what's trending. Yeah. Nobody's credited us yet, bastards. Not bitter. But I was sure that I'd read the words. So I went back through and had a look at some of the tweets that we'd received. And it was Scott's tweet that they'd put in the paper to say how much he was enjoying it. And it's like, come on, you got to credit the man. Anyway, there's a few things on here. I took a few screenshots, so I'll go through those first, and then I'm going to look at my timeline. And forgive me that this is a bit disjointed all the time, this.
Be more prepared, couldn't you?
Fuck off. So, first of all, Sarah Lynch. Sarah Lynch's notes are incredible. I've retweeted them, so a lot of people have now seen them. But she has got copious amounts of notes all over the place. Now, I couldn't translate it. There is so much. But she's got links to the CCTV, the post bag that Jean's got. What is she posting? Boss's house, Alicia, Cordelia, phone, Fred. It's mad that there are links. It's like Charlie in Always Sunny, just with his board and pieces of string. It's unbelievable what's going on. So fair play. We've got Mrs. Taylor. Mrs. Taylor tweets quite a lot, and she's said Dot and Rox's evidence. What a dodgy little shit. So I think that's a soundbite that I need to cut out. I'm sure one of them must have said, what a dodgy little shit. I didn't pick up on it, but we need to find that then, which I loved. Alan Sharp has put, so the first two teams had a combined evidence total of he and whore. I feel like I've just witnessed 2 fresh murders. And then I sort of replied and said 4 murders, because after Claire Mitchell QC had finished with them, oh my God, that was brutal. Absolutely brutal. And I think that might be... Oh, no, hang on. So Tedley Manor, we've mentioned Tedley Manor before because he might have been the only person. They might have been. Actually, Tedley... I always think that of being Ted, but it's probably a place, Tedley Manor. So forgive me for assuming that you're called Ted. Tedley Manor has tweeted us on the 12th, so at the last episode, and put, and this isn't my comments, this is someone else, so forgive me, Dot and Rox, if you're listening, but Rox and Dot are dumb and dumber.
Hang on, what did he call him? Rotten Dot?
Rox and Dot, it's just the other way around. So yeah, Dot and Rox, it rolls off the tongue a little better, but Rox and Dot are dumb and dumber. If they solve this, I will eat a whole egg, shell and all. So I saved it, and I said, like, I'm saving this tweet because if they go on to win it, we want to see that egg video. Fair play, come back tonight and said, I don't have to eat the whole egg.
Was he eating some of it already?
Maybe just going to eat the innards because that's the good bit of the egg. I don't know. Another one. Right, it's its username. So, it's either BB Clips 1 or BBC Lips 1. BBC Lips. I think it's BB Clips. I think it's Big Brother Clips, like BB for Big Brother, and not BBC Lips. So, I love it when people's usernames are like this funny. My theory, Freddie was involved in the murder of Charlie's dad back in the late 90s, the audio recording at the beginning in the beginning episode. Charlie purposely worked in Freddie's circles to collect evidence whilst in Glasgow and knew he'd come to the island, so followed. Interesting take. I've got a few people commenting their words, so their 2-word summary. I've got Mrs. Taylor again saying progressively pacey. She thinks Logan or Ishbel, which Ishbel, Sit and Duck, I absolutely agree with that. We've got Alan Sharp, who we did mention earlier about the murders. His 2-word summary, bedding in. Hamish. He's actually put Hamish, but, you know, we should correct him really and tell him there's an extra M in the word. Or, I mean...
Hey.
Yeah, new names, obviously H-E-Y, Mish. I was impressed with the brothers-in-law eventually, but they were heavily featured. Yeah, they'd up their game, and to be fair, they were portrayed in the best light in this episode, I think, although there was quite a few...
But that's the whole sequence with Tony, though, isn't it, I think?
Definitely. Now, mentioned Sarah Lynch a little bit earlier about her scribbles and things like that. So, Codsall Sai, who is I can't quite tell from their profile, but follows us nonetheless, has replied and said, so Sarah Lynch put, here are my scribbles. Sonia is my number one suspect or my number one person of interest for the second week running. Codsall Sai has put, the other theory I'm thinking of was the 2K drug money, or was it money for an abortion, possibly given to her, to Sonia. Anyway, we know they are not short of a bob or two, and Sonia is always protecting Tony. We've then got Surviving 2021, who's put, I have a feeling the money is not drug money or for a termination. It's something else. The place was not ransacked, so the killer was not looking for it. If it was connected to the murder, it would be gone. Only the mobile, so the incriminating evidence is on the mobile. Yes, Codsall Sai, we need to see the phone. Everybody's phone these days gives their life story away. Surviving 21. Yeah. And did she not have any social media? Has this not been looked into? I'd have been on that in seconds. If there is none, then you didn't want to be found. Codsall Sai. Yes, maybe there is some photos of what happened in Glasgow. Stays in Glasgow. Ian Rankin with the shush emojis. 4 shush emojis to Codsall Sai. So he's chipping in to say,
caught in the act, Rankin.
Yeah. And now Codsall Sai, fair play. I'm trying to channel the inner Rebus in me. Rebus being a character of Ian Rankin's.
Okay.
Ian Rankin has also put some thought emojis to Sarah Lynch's original scribbles, so perhaps there's something in it. Dan, PhD law researcher, 2 words, relevant questions, and has tagged Bobby Solicitor, who is Bobby Reed. And another person has come back, Cat Laughs, has put, no brains. I don't know whether that's me and you or other people on the on the investigation panel. Mike Harmston has put something along the lines of Hamish rename-ish, because he's gone through so many renames now. We've had Hamish and we've had Hamish as well. And Chris Perry, our resident overseas OG. Chris is big into these programs and is managing to watch it in America. Don't ask us how, because we will never tell. You've got to tell me how amazing episode 3 was, because poor Chris doesn't actually watch it until tomorrow or later in the day for him. And his timeline is also filled up with all the shit that we post throughout the day. So apologies, Chris. It was a great episode, but you'll have watched it by the time you listen to this. There are so many other people that are tweeting us, and what I will make sure I do is go through, reply to them all, retweet, etc., but I can't read them all out tonight, I am afraid. Mookstar, however, is another one, has put very busy, so that was his 2-word review, because I asked for people's 2-word reviews, and he's put Jane. I think he means Jean, because there isn't a Jane on the island. I also saw someone else put Jean's name down as Jean, like Gene Hackman or Gene Wilder, which I thought was brilliant as well. So I've not actually checked the spelling of Jean on the island's name, but I presumed it was a J-E-N, like the trousers that you wear. And
I don't
Pip,
wear trousers.
The Pip has replied and because I did ask where the heck Chris or Drew, the peacock, was this week, and Pip has replied he was on his coffee break with a picture of a peacock and a coffee cup, although the screen is showing far too much light, so you can't see it right
I think we'll see him again.
I really hope we do.
Very good B-roll, isn't he?
Yeah.
We'll definitely see him again. One thing I will mention is there is definitely an audience for this. Like, even if you take the whole game show away from this and present a murder mystery where the audience are the detectives.
100%.
You know what I mean? And it's not solved by the people investigating it, but more they are the facilitators for the audience somehow. Do you know what I mean? And like you say, you could watch 6 hours of this, and it's like, right, who did it? Because all the evidence is there.
So remember when Netflix did that special with the incredible actor?
You can't remember who it is, can you? Must be that good.
Do you know what? What I do remember is that he actually left Twitter for a while because he got bullied. Because he has got a distinctive look. I remember that he went to a Halloween party as Sid from Toy Story, and it was a Black Mirror. It was a Black Mirror episode, wasn't it?
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter, thank you. Rambo, son of Rambo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Among other things, I'm pretty sure he was. Have a look at that quickly. I might have made that up. I'm sure he did that when he was a bit younger.
I think you did.
But was it a Black Mirror episode or was it a standalone episode? It was Black Mirror. And
no, he wasn't. Yeah, Son of Rambo, you're right.
Son of Rambo, there you go. That episode, although people panned it and criticised it, and there were a few issues with it, I still thought it was genius. And it was actually them pushing the boat out and saying, we're going to try something. And all right, it didn't necessarily go down too well. But what is stopping people from going down this line of inquiry? It's only like the Choose Your Own Adventure books or the Osborne puzzle books back in the day, where you could turn the page and find out what had happened on the pages before, or go to the next part of the adventure. There is definitely, whether or not it's in that format, but there are thousands of people. There are thousands of people that are watching these episodes.
And they're watching like details, like little details. Yeah, it's just incredible. I hope they do more of it.
Likewise. So, before we go, we need to ask the usual questions. Who of the next 3 couples will leave next? Or is it just too difficult to say?
I think at the moment it's too difficult to say. Because we saw Nick and Andrew. The back end of this episode was all Nick and Andrew, and you need to see how the other couples perform when they're in that limelight where they need to interrogate someone.
I think you're right, and we've noticed now that it's all down to the evidence. And even though, say, Chrissy and Caroline have been portrayed as the weakest, if they get the right evidence together to get an arrest or what have you, then they're going to pip it, aren't they? They're going to get the points.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention, so rather than talk about who we think will win the grand prize, because I think it could be any of them based on what we've said. Richmond and Sarah consistently the best pair, but again, it's difficult to say without all the evidence at hand. But I did a Twitter poll and asked who our audience, anybody that was searching the hashtag, who they thought was going to win. We had 3% for Dot and Rocks. We had 5% for Chrissy and Caroline. We had 25% for Andrew and Nick and Andrew.
Yeah.
And the remaining 67% for Richmond.
Big numbers.
Sarah. That's massive. I think we'll run it again. Has it changed? We got 96 people respond. I guess it's going to be different if it's different people that reply and things like that, but it'd be interesting to see how that's swayed based on the last hour that we've just seen.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's the killer?
Logan's mum.
Ishbel.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go for her now. changing my answers every time.
No, but I think it's quite clear though. Without the evidence, you'd be very much getting crucified by Claire Mitchell QC at the moment. But that said, from what we've seen, or I think it's almost telling that we haven't seen much of her. That's probably why your mind's there at the moment. One, she was out the house. She said she was seeing Hamish. Was she?
Yeah. What's her alibi? Like, you know?
But then what's her motive?
Don't know.
I did see someone mention tyre tracks in their notes. So were there tyre tracks at the scene of the crime? Because obviously she was in a Range Rover. She's the only one that we've seen driving.
Isn't she the one that drove to the house initially?
She was driving, wasn't she? And yeah,
Past
Alicia went there and found the body, came out and saw... Something that did really make me laugh was on the Facebook group. It's incredible. It is worth going and have a look.
Is that your Facebook group?
It is not my Facebook group.
Okay, just confirming that.
What is incredible on there is that someone wrote, why is everybody just saying Ishbal was in the car when Corrie was in the car as well? Everybody keeps saying Ishbal and Corrie. That's her surname, Ishbal and Logan Corrie. so like this one person is like, what are people on about? There were two people in the car, Ishbal and Corrie. No. It was Ishbal Corrie. That's one person. Okay, other than a Hungarian cocktail, what is the Rankin twist?
That's a good one now.
It's difficult now, isn't it?
It's difficult. Because I had a good theory last week, which isn't going to happen, that Charlie was in on it. Which he still can be, because obviously they found the drugs. Not sure. Stumped.
Now I'm gutted because Mrs. Taylor had, it's like I'm talking about a teacher or something. No, her name on Twitter is Mrs. Taylor. She tweeted us, and I'll see if I can find it.
Do you think Charlie was waiting for Logan?
Waiting for what? When?
When she had 2 glasses of wine and all sorts, didn't she?
Ooh. I've seen some people say that, was it 2 other people at the house because she wasn't drinking because she knew she was pregnant or something like that?
That's true. But could it be Logan's baby then? I don't know.
It could be.
That's me. Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
So, Mrs. Taylor, and she tweeted this yesterday. I might have read this out already. Murder Island tomorrow. Wild new theory. Charlie is trying to undercut Freddie in the drug trade by producing her own and using Jean for logistics. Freddie not happy and gets Logan to do a prove you're a big man act on his behalf. Possible history from Glasgow.
See,
I like that.
It's a good theory, but not on an island of 10 people.
True, because it's a pass through rather than a yeah. You're not shipping that cocaine could last the whole island a whole year.
Quite a lot of kids there, aren't there?
I mean, we're saying small island. There is a population of 170 odd.
Yeah.
So we do take the piss and say there's only 6 people. That's because they're the 6 people that we see. No, there are about 170 people on there. So it's not, there are kids there, but there are other adults there. It's not just
run by kids.
Well, it could just be like
the mayor of the
Logan and Alicia's kids. They've just had loads together.
Yeah, just island life, mate. There's not much to do, just to reproduce.
Repopulate, yeah. And finally, we ought to set expectations for next week's podcast. I'm actually going to be in a holiday cottage. Think along the lines of Alan Partridge's Static Home. Well, that's how I'm picturing it anyway. No offense if Sarah, the person that's letting us have her holiday home for the week, is listening. But I have no idea if there's a TV or an internet connection, but there is a hot tub. So if I'm unable to watch and record next week, you can do the uploading. And it'll just be us chatting shit about the temperature of the water and how many bubbles.
Am I going to just have to do the podcast on my own and just throw my voice into like?
Yeah, I think or just cut this week's and just reorganize it all.
Cut all the podcasts you've ever done.
Yeah, like
into a conversation, like
they do for like Carrie Fisher in the new Star Wars films and things like that. Just reuse what you've got of me already.
Okay,
or maybe I'll say some stuff like that. That was incredible what Chrissy and Caroline did. Oh, I can't believe Tony said that. Freddie's still a bit of a jerk, isn't he? No, look, we will make it work. Even if I find myself in a nearby McDonald's on their free Wi-Fi, we will have a Murder Island podcast for next Tuesday or Wednesday at a push, because so far we've not yet been able to release on a Tuesday because we always go over midnight.
Well, on that note,
that's properly it. We'll mention Ghost Watch next time, and we will be back next week with a hot tubs. We will be back next week with episode 4 of Jam Presents Murder Island. And I've lost the end recording video.
You can just cut this.